Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is that you're in the world right now. Thank you so much for joining us on ICFB Star Entertainment. Today we have a very special guest. We have a talented artist from Australia. And I'd like to introduce to you our very own Tim Lane.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
Tim is with Big Records, and we're really excited to have him here. So he's got some great new music, and he's an up-and-coming musician. So, Tim,
Yes.
how did you get started in music?
I started playing the guitar when I was I'm 59 now, so a long time ago, when I was about 16 or 17. Graduated to playing in bands at university. Then probably gave it away almost for about 15 years while family and other things happened. And then when I started playing music again, I started to focus much more on being a singer-songwriter than just playing guitar. And the journey to get to a point where I could sing probably took I could sing all that time, but to get to the point where I would be comfortable to record was probably a 10-year journey from about the age of 40 to 50, I suppose you'd say. And then the original music story probably came slightly after that, when I met a guy called Michael Carpenter, who's a producer in Sydney that I work with, and he was able to just take my music to another level that was, as you see, the product we have now is probably largely due to his influence on me. So that's the story. And as all musicians know, recording and writing your own music is a drug of addiction. You can't really give it up. You just keep going and it keeps coming out of you. So that's my story. But I'm a sort of classic 80s rock guitarist, sort of, influenced singer-songwriter, I suppose.
Nice. Yes, it is kind of one of those strange things. When you become a singer-songwriter, those songs can occur and those ideas can occur at the most radical times. Haven't you found that, Tim?
Well, yeah, I sort of say I'm a chartered accountant during the day, and I always say to my clients, be careful what you say, because it might end up a lyric in a song. Because it's really, I think my music's very observational about people and about in time and all that. So, yeah. But, they just come to me. If you look at my phone, you'll see me belting little thoughts into it nearly every day, where I've seen something, heard something, thought of something. And then the other thing, I record a lot of guitar riffs, because, if I don't put them down on record them, I forget them. So the process is I've sort of, in a funny way, when I write a song, I don't really worry about finishing it, in the sense that I just know that if I keep listening to it in my head and keep rewriting the lyrics, it'll sort of finish itself. And a lot of work with my music teacher as well helps that. So I call it hardwired. We're hardwired to do it. It's not really a choice, in my opinion.
No, it's sometimes the music just comes to you and you've got no choice, right? No matter where you are, right?
Yep, that's it. Oh yeah, that's it. I saw that, I heard that. Yep, better write that down. So it's a joyous thing, though. It's really something I get a lot out of. But it's sort of all-consuming in that sense.
Oh, for sure. And so what do you do when you get a guitar riff in your head and you don't have your guitar? How do you handle that?
Well, most of them come when the lyric are the ones that come without the guitar in my hand. But most of the guitar stuff comes while the guitar's in my hand and I'm twiddling away in front of the footy, or... But occasionally I'll hear someone else play something, and I'll fiddle with that and change that. And then the other thing is, I'm a voracious watcher of YouTube. And I really follow a lot of people who, teach about chord progressions. So I'll see something on there. So I've got a song called 15 Summers, which I haven't released yet, which you'll hear about eventually, Tara. But it's really based around a riff that I learnt from a guy on YouTube, and I just loved the chord progression, and it had a lot of open bits and pieces in it. So I eventually crafted that into a song. I do love a lot of what we call drone strings or open chord progressions, where you get a little bit of that jangly sort of stuff in it. But the guitar riffs, I wish, I wish I could say there was some sequence or some sort of way it all happens methodically, but it just comes when it comes, and you grab it when it's there.
Yeah, no. I'm a singer-songwriter myself, and I'll be driving around on the road, and it's like all of a sudden the lyric comes up. And what do? You got to stop and you got to record it somewhere, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I do that too. If I just sing it into the phone, into a recorder, and come back to it. And then the other thing that sort of triggers me a little bit is I've had a couple of occasions where my music teacher said you have to write a song about this. Actually, she gave me a challenge the other day. It's not finished. She said you have to write a song that's just not about someone or something. It's just, about, like the song was called Rainy Day. And so it's just about a rainy day. So I couldn't wander into all of these sort of things that I wander into normally. So it was a bit of a challenge, but it does lead to you writing some interesting new stuff.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So what is it about the music that has become your greatest passion? Like, how is it that these lyrics just hit you in your head?
Oh, that's a $64 million question, Tara. I mean, as I said, I've got, I'm very observational with people. So like I see them and I go, what's going on there? I've got a bit of what I call an equity streak in me. So if I see something I think's unfair, that triggers things in my head, like to think about. And there was just, so that, and then sort of what was the question, where does the music come from? It just sort of, just keeps coming. It's interesting. I've got no fear of ever running out of something to write because it just seems to come to me. I mean, there's a lot of things parked back in my memory, like riffs that I'll find again in my head or things that I wrote down and I'll go back to go, I remember that. But, the thing that I'm really seeking most of the time is to connect with people, to get to write this is a really funny analogy to use, but I'll use it anyway. I don't know if you've seen the movie Shawshank Redemption. Anyway, there's a scene in there where the guy throws the rock at the poster and it goes straight through in his cell. And if you haven't seen the movie before, you just go, I never saw that coming. I never saw that. It just completely blasted me. Sometimes in music, I want to get that moment where when someone first hears the song, what they're expecting to hear is this, but you actually shape them a different way and get them to sort of sit back and listen because you've connected with them either lyrically or musically. And so that's sort of what I sort of drive for. I'm a really big fan of, I don't know if you've heard of Neil Finn from Crowded House. He's sort of, Australia's and New Zealand's sort of premier songwriter from the 80s. And I read his autobiography and it shaped me a lot, that autobiography, because what he said was he would continually work on his songs, tweaking them until he got them right. And he said that's just the process. And I learned a lot from that book. I went, oh, okay, so if it's not exactly right, and that's what I've learned to do. I just park it. I can't deal with that.
Yeah,
I've got it that far. I kind of just got to go away and think about it and let it come. So I'm not like these people that can write a song in 15 minutes. I don't mean. It's not on me.
Well, sometimes it comes in 15 minutes and sometimes it takes a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
How about that song that you wrote, Are You Okay? Like, I really love that song. Is that, and you said you touched a little bit about, observation. And I feel like there's a story behind that one.
Yeah, so that was one that my music teacher said, I want you to write a song about mental health from your perspective. So my perspective has always been, my day-to-day work and working with clients. And I help people in some pretty difficult situations financially. So, but I just reflected on how often, I will just go through the process with the clients and not really stop and say, look, is this working for you? Is there something else I need to know about? And that was what triggered that. And then because that line, does the money bring the happiness that you crave? Or, I think that's a big issue in my world. Like, people are very driven by money, but often I just don't think the money actually makes them happier. In fact, my observation of people is some of the people that retired with less money have a far better retirement than the ones with a lot of money because their decision-making processes are so much simpler. They don't have to worry about it. They've got a simple lifestyle. And the other ones, have got a NARF or to do this. So, and that was all that Are You Okay was really, you're in my office with me, but are you okay? If we got it right, there's something else I could do. What's really worrying you? I now always start a meeting with a client, which is came part out of that is there some headline issue I need to deal with straight away that's worrying you, or can we just get into the normal stuff? Now, sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll ring you back later, which is interesting. I go, oh, look, there was something I don't know to tell you, but I couldn't tell you in the meeting. So I said, that, and it's all about those sort of issues. But are you okay is, and just the propensity to ask someone how important that is, because often if you do ask them, they'll actually tell you they're not, and then you got somebody.
And then you get a chance to be able to help them with their reason that maybe they're not okay.
But just asking them often is a big help. Like the whole thing is, you don't have to just hearing them. And look, one of the other things I've learned over the journey is, the problem can be solved more often by letting them get off their chest what's worrying them and just let them get it off their chest. Don't actually intervene. Don't start to solve the problem. Just let them get it all out. Because 80% of the therapy is in dumping it on you, and the other 20% is how you fix it. And so that process, it took me I used to have this client that used to come in who would rant at me about this particular issue with his counsel and then just go home. We wouldn't talk about it, but I worked out that I was the only one that he could talk to about it. Like he needed someone he trusted who knew his circumstance. And that's what Are You OK is about. If you've got this relationship with someone, you should be using it to find out are they okay, or other than just sort of going mechanically through the day-to-day. That's where that came from. And it started out, and just for context, it started out as a guitar-based song. And then my music teacher said, oh, why don't we just try it on the piano? And when I heard it, I went, oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. So, again, it started as a guitar sequence, and then she did that. And I think it sounds really good on the piano.
It sounds beautiful on the piano. And it's really interesting to hear that actually came from your regular everyday work as an accountant. So it seems to me like your vision of music kind of encompasses your career and the experiences. So can you tell me a little bit more about where you see your music going?
Yeah, well, music's an interesting, because it's always a challenge for me, music, because I'm sort of where I am professionally in my career versus where I am musically. I'm sort of 15 years behind my professional career. So I'm sort of towards the end of my professional career. And so I have to go back and relearn that I've got to learn things and get better and challenge things and do that. So, but, the concept I've always used is I wanted a body of work. I wanted something that I could say is mine and I'd worked on and I would be proud of. And then the second part of it is I really want to write songs where I can connect with people and I'll get something from it. So, I can't write a Melissa Etheridge, I'm so stuffed up, my baby left me sort of song. It's just not in me.
No. Everybody writes from a different place, right?
Yeah, so that's my place, is just my observation, my view of equity, my wanting to help people and my wanting to connect with people. So, but I think there's a similarity in that, in the sense that professionally, I've always worked with what are the best client relationships to have, and some of them aren't good, some you've got to get rid of. And music's the same, some people will like your music and connect with you, others just won't.
But you can't control that, right?
No, and people do things when people are ready to do things. They don't do them when you want them to. So that was a very big learning for me as a young chartered accountant. I'd give this piece of advice and they wouldn't act on it. And then 3 years later, they come back and do it. But what I learned from that was all you can do is tell them, or you can just give them the music. And if they connect with it now, later, or whenever, that's as far as you can go. You can't make them connect with you. You can only give them the opportunity to connect.
For sure. It's a big thing, but music is pretty cool that you can actually have that opportunity to connect with people. And, when you write from the heart and you're doing it from a little bit more of an observational standpoint. So it sounds to me like part of the secret core of your success is empathy.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think I'm sort of looking to empathise with people, and it's sort of driven. You can only help people if you can empathise with them. So, yeah, it's a lot of empathy and a lot of I can hear your story. I can hear your story. I mightn't always be able to fix your story, but I can hear it.
Listen, and you know what? Listening to somebody's story is like 80% of the problem solving, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. And sort of respecting their, what they're trying to tell you and honouring it and listening properly, deeply. I mean, one of the challenges you get is, not being too time poor that you can't put the time into that relationship or that discussion and give it regular attention. So that's a professional challenge, which sort of leads to a musical challenge in that enough time to do the music to get that right as well. But it's a really, I find it a positive problem, because in the sense that, well, I've come home, clear my head, do some music, then go back to the other, and I think they counterbalance each other quite nicely. So I don't feel a lot of stress about work. I feel stressed about the volume of work, but I really feel a lot of stress about, can I do it? And music sort of taught me the same thing. Is, songwriting is a process. You just got to take the next step, and don't worry if the chorus doesn't start exactly the way you want it, because as you evolve through the song, you go, that'll come. The classic. There's a song in my Spotify called Reunion. I don't know if you've heard it. Anyway, basically, I had the chorus and the verse for 10 years and never And only one day it dawned on me that they fitted together. They were in the same key, and then that song evolved out. And I really, really love that song because I think it's, really part of my makeup and DNA as I grew up. It reflects back on that period of time. So the point being is, if I'd have worried too much about it, I probably would have tried to do something else. But I just and then the obvious thing came along, so it sorted it out.
Nice. So that's pretty interesting that you talk about the counterbalance, about balancing your work as an accountant and balancing the music. So I'm going to ask you a question here. Do you find that your accounting has become better now that you're a singing and songwriter?
I think it's got, I think it's interesting. Like, I think the way I say that is people sort of look at me and go, how can you be a creative and be an accountant? And I go, well, you can actually be quite creative as an accountant. And if you're creative as an accountant, within the law, I'm not saying outside the law, but you can look. I look a bit further for solutions than others would do, and sometimes that means that they're two similar sort of aspects. But definitely, my demeanour. The other thing is my stress demeanour is very. If I do a gig or get a songwriter or go and have a recording session, they're all very therapeutic for my work because they just balance me up. So, 2 days up in the studio in Sydney with Michael is, it's the best therapy you could ever get.
Oh, 100%. And do you find that the accounting helps your music?
Well, yeah, I think accounting's often about, getting the right things in the right place. So, it's not about...
Music's something like that too, right? Getting the right thing in the right place.
Does that chord work there or does that go there? So it's actually I find it actually quite a similar process. Like, what's the problem I'm solving? What pieces go where? And I always start with, what do I know that I do know goes where? Well, that goes there. And, there's the chorus. There's the first two lines of the verse.
Yeah, so there's a structure.
Yeah. My biggest challenge is I often write something, go into my music teacher with a puffed up chest and go, look what I've written. And then and she goes, where's the pre-chorus? I go, what do you mean, where's the pre-chorus? She said, it's missing. So that's a bit of a crush. But again, that's led me to really understand song structure and add and subtract where it needs to be. So, she can hear things in my music that I sort of ignore or can't really get out. And so that's been really good. It's like any coaching relationship, they find things or they get you to do things you wouldn't otherwise do, and they see things that you don't always see. So, and that's just human nature, that a new set of eyes looking at something. And then the second set of eyes is always the producer when I send it up there. And we have a discussion about, well, what do we want this to look like? And then there's, another set of layers on top of that. And I think too, for example, with Are You OK? The first line of that, I haven't got it right in front of me, was actually different when I took it up to Michael. And he said, that English doesn't make sense. I said, what do you mean? He said, no. And so we changed it to, I never heard the words you'd say. I think the original version I didn't hear the words you'd said or something like that. So it was quite a subtle change, but it was, when I reflected on it, it was actually better. But the structure piece is quite important. And and not every...
the first 15 seconds of a song is really critical.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's getting that. So I think if you look, which I've released present moment, and this is again where my music teacher saw something that had quite a long intro. But if you listen to it now, it's got 4 bars bang, and so much better. Now the rock star guitarist in me loved the old intro because you got to bang a guitar around and do it. But the reality is, jumping right in as quick as you can was the better outcome.
Well, jumping right in is a good way to go for sure. Right. But I find it interesting that you're an accountant and you're a musician. And the reason I find it really interesting is that they do say that a baby that listens to classical music when it's in the mother's belly, that baby will have a more gifted ability for mathematics. Did you know that?
No, although it's interesting, music is basically mathematical.
It is.
Structure, tone, semitone, tone. So, which... sometimes does wait in because it feels like, there's not another chord I could put in there because it won't fit. But then there's all these sort of exceptions to the mathematical rule you can work with. And then...
So do you see the music in your head like you see the accounting in your head and then it comes to the guitar? Like
I normally will play a riff and that gets stuck in my head and I go, oh shit, I've got to sort this one out. It's funny, like music with me is funny. Like if I hear a song that I really like, even if it's a cover, it stays there till I go.
That little earworm, right? You gotta keep going and going and going till the song's done, and then you can sleep, right?
Yeah, so
I find that it keeps me up at night. Does it keep you up at night?
Oh yeah. I just got to get the guitar and play it and say, oh, and there's a sort of muscle memory thing I've learned with playing live too, is that, there's a certain amount of times you have to play something, even your own songs, before it gets right into your muscle memory. So it's partly about, doing that as well. So the accounting says, go through the steps, do the steps and get to where you want to go. And don't worry about, the overnight hit, because there isn't one.
Right. Did you know that Albert Einstein was also a musician?
I did vaguely know that, yeah. I mean, you look at the guitarist from Queen, who's really, really good.
I love him. Yeah.
He's an astrophysicist. He did astrophysics at university.
The Foo Fighters has got a really educated team. There's some engineers in that group as well.
Yeah, you got to remember, at the end of the day, music is very structural and very mathematical. So, and that's sort of your biggest ally in anything is, the next chord would be that chord. The next chord would be that chord that goes there. And like accounting's a bit like that, when you're a bit this size, you have this structure. As you get to this size, you have this structure. When you sell your business, you do this. So I'm looking, where do you fit in terms of the sequence of events that I'm expecting? And have you got the right pieces in the right place for that? And that's the same with music. Have I got a chorus? Have I got a verse? Is that line catchy enough? Or one of the things the interesting thing about a music teacher or a songwriting coach is we all have these habits that we develop, and then
Yep.
So one of mine is that I use these A words all the time too often, like a, say, bay, nay, but, and so she's really pulled me up on no, you can't have every song with that in it. You got to change it up. So, and that's led to some interesting, better outcomes. In fact, I think one of the challenges she gave me was you've got to sing a song with none of them in it, or write a song. I went, oh, really? That's going to be hard. But she always does that in it's a really positive way. But it's things that I just wouldn't have thought of. Like I just wouldn't have thought. So
that's the benefit of working with a coach, is that a coach can bring in items that you never would have considered nor thought of. But if you would ever say to a Canadian you can't say A, well, that'd be a tough one, because I say A all the time, eh?
Yeah, well, the Australians say it as well. Don't worry. We're not great at we butcher the English language as much as anybody, probably more than most, if you like. But it just sort of goes to learning and getting better, and I think in terms of your mental health, for want of a better word, continual learning is one of the best things for your mental health. If you're learning and developing, you don't get into this negative thought cycle. And it's a bit of a left field comment to make. I do a little bit of meditation, sort of 5 nights a week. I'll just do 20 minutes. And in terms of settling me down, making my music better, my work better, giving me a basis to move forward, it's very powerful. And present moment, that song's sort of about that. It's about, coming back, living in the moment. It's a very Eckhart Tolle sort of thing. But as a young accountant, I used to be very stressed. I'm just, I've got all this work. It was more about, whereas now I'm just, and the best example I can give you is, I've got 30 staff that work for me. And so, I've learned with them, I can't deal with that. I haven't got headspace for that right now. Why don't you put an appointment in my diary and we'll do that at this time tomorrow when I can give you my full attention. So I've learned to manage whatever there's mental overload, if you like. And that's a very powerful tool. And it's the same thing
that could be a good line right there. I've learned to manage what I can manage for now and to schedule what I can't handle for the future, right? That's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, I just and look, this is a really terrible thing. So I do nothing that's hard on a Friday afternoon. Who wants to do anything?
Why is that terrible? That's a good idea. I like it.
So, I said to Eva that works for me the other day, I said, look, it's 2:00 on a Friday. We're not doing this right now. Let's do this Monday. And so I've learned that I don't have to deal with everything straight away. And that's a real, and it goes to music, is that, you just have to focus and do it when you can. The other thing I've sort of learned as I've played live more, the longer I play, the less clutter I have. So when I play live solo now, I have 3 Bose S1s with batteries in it. a microphone and a plug for the guitar, nothing else. No loop pedal, no effects pedal, no nothing. And I learnt that from a guy who's a full-time gigger in Edinburgh who I follow. And he said, just focus on the music. And I found that really liberating in that I'm just really focused on connection with the audience, you know, singing the song, making sure that they're happy with what I'm doing. And if I don't have, you know, the super duper chorus pedal, or I don't have the, you know, the distortion that's going to... And the other thing is I've really focused on, even if they're covers which I intermingle in my live set, they're different covers and they're played in an interesting way, and not like everyone else is playing them. So, you know.
Well, if you're going to do a cover, it's got to be a little different, right? Like, look at how successful Disturbed is with that one single that they did.
Yeah, what was that one? That
was
was
Silence.
Yeah, no,
The Sound of Silence. And that video, like, it's just killer, right? And his voice is beautiful and it does such a great job, you know? And, you know, there's some covers that have done better than the original. Like, did you know, like Sinead O'Connor, her biggest hit was actually a cover of somebody else.
Yeah, well, there's a big song in Australia called Torn, which was a cover. But the other one I'm quite taken by at the moment, I don't know if you've ever seen the Whiskey Brothers.
Oh, no.
If you go and Google them or YouTube, they're just, all they do is covers, but they've done this version of, a big version of Brown Eyed Girl, because Brown Eyed Girl is the most overplayed song in the world by a country mile. But their version is so catchy and so different and so, wow, and they're up to 1.2 million streams, something like that.
Wow.
And so I always look at that, you know, but the point is, and although, again, it's simple, there's no loop pedal, they've got their guitar and a banjo, that's it. And so the simplicity of music is really sometimes the thing you got to fall back on. And one of the challenges for me with Michael, my producer, is he's very good at layering, and it sounds fantastic, but sometimes I've got to pull it back and say, look, we've got to get it to more what it's going to sound like live. And so that's the balance we get to. But that's, you know, he's fantastic with that. And the interesting thing is, when I play Are You OK, it's always played with a guitar. It's not played with a piano live.
Well, you know,
carries.
If you play the guitar, it's hard to play the piano, right?
Yeah.
I tried to play the guitar, but it hurt my fingers.
Well, you need these things called calluses.
Nope. I play saxophone. I don't have to have calluses. I can have nice hands.
Yeah. No, it's but again, you know, I could have done a recorded piano track. I could have done other things, but I thought, you know, I just want it to be authentic Tim Lane. So that's what authentic looks like live. So
nice. So you're in Australia. What part of Australia are you from?
So I'm from Tasmania, which is the island down the bottom, the Tassie Devil, where the Tassie Devil's from.
So do you have a Tassie Devil side of yourself, Tim?
Oh, we all do down here. That's our local football team now, so that's just a big thing in our life down here. But yeah, we all, I mean, Tasmania's, so Hobart, where I live, is the most southern Antipodean city in the world, really. Next stop's Antarctica. So, you know, we have a lovely community and a nice place to live, and we're away from some of the harder stuff. So it's a great place. It's very beautiful, captivating, and, you know, lifestyle here is relatively easy time-wise. So we're not, you know, like Melbourne, Sydney, for example, there's a lot of travel time and stress and all that sort of stuff. We don't really have that here. So that is a better place to be a creative. The reverse of that, though, is that it can be, from a musical sense, sometimes a little bit challenging to get heard and challenging to get gigs and quite competitive. But you know, you take the good with the bad.
Well, there's always a good side and a bad side. Do you know any other languages other than English? Nope.
No, I my only claim to fame is that I lived in Eastern Europe for 2 years in Hungary and Budapest, and that is a useless language that I didn't learn.
Did you learn? What was it?
It's Hungarian. It's one of the most difficult languages you could ever come across. And at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself why, when only 8 million people in the whole world ever speak it. So language is not my thing, really. You know, I speak Australian, put it that way.
Well, that's pretty cool that you lived in. So I take it you did a stint in Hungary. Very neat. And what inspired you to go and move to Hungary for a while?
Well, like a young accountant, I'd qualified, and young Australian accountants generally go and have a couple of years or 3 or 4 years in London. But that was 1991 and there was a big recession on, and you just couldn't get a place, couldn't get a transfer to London. But the company I was working for, Ernst & Young, said, look, and the wall had come down and there was all this inbound investment in Eastern Europe, and there was an opportunity to go to Hungary. And I said, it was one of those decisions that sort of made itself, because, I always said, well, if I don't do this, I will always regret it. So I've just got to go and do it. And, I was newly married, so 18 months, 2 years over there, just the two of us, and, learning my skill and, being a better accountant. Didn't do much music when I was over there, but, the personal development from that experience and the sort of confidence it gave you to sort of problem solve was very, very powerful. Like I sort of always approach things now that there's some solution here. It might be the best solution, but there's a solution, so there's something that's going to happen. It's a bit like songwriting the same, there's a song here, whether it's my best song or my worst song, I don't know, and that's for other people to judge, but it's a song, so keep moving. And but yeah, your skills you learn living in a country where you don't speak the language, and, basically Hungary was a bit of an insane place to work, because all the old Russian stuff that, was there, the old Soviet Union stuff that was still in the culture, was just, from a young Australian's perspective, I just sort of pinch myself some days and go, this can't possibly be happening to me. Like,
right.
Like in a work sense, like, there's just crazy things like, you'd say to them, like, why did you do that? Why is that there? And they go, oh, well, it's just always been there, Tim. I said, but didn't someone work out that it's wrong? But no, that whole cultural change. So I learned a lot about culture. It certainly told me how good Australia is, and, democracies like Australia, how important they are as a place to live. And because we take for granted what we've got, but those people were really challenged for long periods of time.
Yeah. It does change your perspective when you see somebody else's way that they live, for sure. So that's cool. Thank you for sharing your experience of living in Hungary for a while. And I guess you were glad to come back to Australia and Tasmania at the end of that stint.
Yeah, I sort of had an opportunity to go somewhere else, but I think it was a sort of, for want of a better, turning point in my career. So I was either going to keep doing the stuff I was doing over there or come back and get into a more of an accounting industry sort of role, and that's what I did. And then that sort of in an interesting way, my career went a full circle, and I came back to being, like what we call a chartered accountant working with clients. So I did all the bits, came back, and it came back to that sort of connecting and helping, and that sort of pervades my music a bit. Is I just felt like that was where I belonged. I didn't belonged helping other people, and being, the CFO of some major corporation was just going to do my head in, because and the problem there's a bad thing to say about my career, but I never could play the politics required to get to where you wanted to go. So I could never hide my body language and say, oh, I think that's a good idea, when I really didn't. So I knew that I was doomed in that environment, so I had to get out of it. So, and look, it wasn't good for my headspace either. I just hated it. 80% of the day being spent on politics and 20% on actually doing something. I found that quite grating. So I sort of ended up where I sort of felt like I should have ended up.
Nice. So I'm going to switch over a little bit over into stuff that we've talked about you as an entertainer. And now we're interested in a little bit about what entertains you. Okay.
What entertains me?
100%. So if you're going to watch a movie, is it going to be at home or is it going to be out?
I love a good movie in our theatre here.
Yeah.
I love going to the theatre. Not that I get to do it that often. I was in a rock choir for a while, and and that rock choir was the choir in a production of We Will Rock You, which is the Queen musical.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
And that was possibly the best 2 weeks of my life. It was just fun. It was just such good fun. It was like team sports for musicians, and so I do love that. I love going to see movies. I really love learning music. I often love the history of music. Like, how did that band evolve? How did that happen? What guitar Brian Adams used on that that particular song. I love looking at other people's guitar rigs. Not that I use a rig, but I just enjoy what they're doing. So that's what. And I'm a bit of a documentary head. I'm not very good at watching a soppy movie.
All right. How about music? What would be your favorite genre to listen to? Maybe even your favorite artist?
Well, I'm a big fan of Neil Finn and Crowded House, but all of that Australian 80s rock I love, like Hunters and Collectors and Crowded House, Australian Crawl, Men at Work, Angels, ACDC. That whole, is very, In Excess is another, and you got to remember I grew up with the early In Excess stuff, not the later stuff. So that band was just transformational in Australian music when it came out. And I remember hearing one of their songs for the first time. First time I heard a synthesizer guitar style pop song, and it was just, completely captivated me. So those sort of bands. But I'm very drawn to, and across all the decades, I'm very drawn to high melody content. So, Beach Boys, anything Beatles, that sort of stuff. So, and my major deficiency is I'm a terrible album listener and a very good song listener. So I won't listen. Spotify was terrible for me because, I could just flick through a whole songs without actually taking in the whole album. But
you know that the artist doesn't get paid if you flick, right? They get half a stream if you go for 30 seconds. You have to get to, I think it's 60 seconds for them to get the full stream.
Sorry, I listen to the song through, but like if I listen to the first song on, Crowded House, I won't listen to the second song unless I really want to. So.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So if you're going to do have a night out or spend a night for yourself with your wife, maybe, are you thinking about TV? Are you thinking about theater? Are you going to go to a concert? Are you going to go to a bar? Or would you plan a karaoke?
We'd go out go out for a drink with friends. Often we'd like to go and see. For example, we saw a band called the Whitlams 2 weeks ago, they're an Australian band, but they played with the Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra. So that was really sort of cool. We like that sort of stuff. Sunday afternoon concerts are good. And we do like a bit of sport as well. We'll go and see a footy match I've got my sons are all, I've got 3 sons there in Hobart, there in Melbourne, so we'll often go over there, see a game, see a concert or a show, and then make a weekend of it with them. That's the sort of stuff. Yeah. I have a little place on the east coast of Tasmania too, which is about an hour away from Hobart where I live, which is on the beach, and we spend a lot of time there as well because it's just
nice. There's nothing quite like being on the beach, is there?
No, and this beach is pristine. Like, you got to remember, Tasmania is a very underpopulated place, so it's very pristine, very underpopulated, sort of your own sort of beach, so to speak. So
you get the beach to yourself, so to speak.
Close enough, close enough.
Is it a rocky shore or is it a sandy shore?
No, it's a white beach place. Just doesn't have, Tasmania doesn't have, on that side of the coast, doesn't have a lot of surf waves, but it's a, pristine blue water beach. Nice. You just got to be careful because the water can be quite cold down this way, but even in the peak of summer, but it's still just a very relaxing place and good.
Nice. So do you have any surf out there, or do you have any reef in Tasmania? Or is that just
Tassie does, but if you see that, Tassie's a bit of a triangle on the top left, up that way, where all the surf is, because of the way the ocean works. On the side that we are, like down this eastern seaboard, if you like, there's not lots of surf, and the beach we most use is sort of protected a bit by an island called Maria Island, which is on the other side of it, so a lot of the prevailing weather, for want of a better word, doesn't really get to the beach, so you don't get a lot of wave. But having said that, you can go from little waves to big waves. It just depends on where the predominant pattern is.
Nice. Okay. Do you do a lot of traveling outside of Australia and Tasmania, or
we haven't since COVID. Prior to that, we did. Having said that, my youngest son's just moved to New York, so we'll be going to there this year. So
nice.
But we do a lot of interstate travel, as Australians call it.
So are you going for the next big thing with Mark?
Well, I haven't sort of talked about that with him yet, but because that's in New York, isn't it?
It is.
Whether I can get that to work with all the other juggles in my life. But he's only been there for 2 weeks, so we're sort of waiting for him to get settled and then plan to trip over. Nice. But it's a decent hike from Australia, New York.
It's a decent hike for sure. But New York is amazing. Like, it's just, there's so many things going on all at once. There's the big billboards. There's so many people. It's a very cool place.
I've been here once before. I really enjoyed it. It's it's just an amazing place. But it's sort of from top to bottom, it's so diverse. Like you go from, something down here to these amazing buildings to these, people living on the streets in these old places. So Australia's very much more of a, that's what I put, sort of a normal distribution place. Like things don't vary that much, but I found the States so variable from top to bottom compared to Australia. But it's just so much bigger than us. Like they're so much bigger, so many more people, so much more opportunity that comes with that. So,
How about art? Do you spend any time enjoying art?
We've
painting or photography or?
So my wife's the one who's into art. We've been involved in what we call art clubs, where you collect with people. So she's in a couple of those. I was in one with her, but we've got lots of art around our house, yeah. And it's mainly Tasmanian Australian art, obviously, but we mainly, she is right into that. I like what she collects, but she's much more into the research and knows what it is. We'll know who the artists are, and we do a bit of that.
Nice. And then in terms of fashion, you're an accountant, so probably pretty traditionally. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll say to you is I think I took my suit off when COVID hit, and I never put it back on. So I don't wear a suit to work anymore. I wear a shirt and chinos or something like that. But the days. So I've sort of at the nice stage of my career is you don't really come and see Tim Lane because he's wearing a suit. You come because he's going to help you with what you need to do. So he'll probably be wearing something a little bit more casual than not unprofessional, but just more casual than that. And then in terms of day-to-day dress, I'm pretty conservative.
Nice. And then the other thing I'm going to ask you is for food. Do you and your wife prefer to eat at home or out?
Home normally, but a bit of both. But we both cook. I don't mind a bit of cooking more on the weekends when I've got time. She's a very good cook, but we'll go out often with the family to what we call a pub meal in Hobart or a restaurant, and so we like both really. But we're reasonably adventurous in what we eat. Like we're not.
Nice.
She's a celiac too, so we've got some issues that we manage there as well.
So you have to be quite creative then, trying different foods, different things that'll work. Nice. Do you have a particular style of food that you enjoy more than another?
I love Asian food. I love Thai food. Yeah.
Yes.
My go-to. But having said that, anything. I more enjoy the occasion out with people, glass of wine and a nice meal, good chat. Yeah. That's what I like.
More about the people that you're spending the time with than what you're eating.
So we wouldn't really just go ourselves. If we just by ourselves do our own thing and cook. But if it's with other people, we wouldn't be hard to talk us into that. So
nice. Nice. So if you're going to go on vacation, is it your preference to spend your vacation in nature or in the city?
I normally will go. We did a bit of skiing for a while, so that's nature. Bit of getting. We got to remember with this place on the east coast, that's sort of in nature. So we're right in the
100%.
So we spend a lot of time there, and then mainly if we're travelling, it's for a reason, like it's to see the boys in Melbourne, or a concert, or and we don't mind a sort of trip to Bali or something like that to sit on a beach occasionally. Tasmania's cold in winter. I know it's not as cold as Canada, but for us it's cold. So getting out of here sometimes is not a bad outcome.
I hear you. We had ice this morning, so totally with you there. I was like, and you know what? It's the middle of March for me. So I was like, wow, we've got ice in the middle of March. Awesome. And we had snow. Snow a couple days ago. Yeah. So, the weather patterns are certainly changing a lot, right? So what would be your favorite vacation place, maybe outside of the cabin that you've got?
Probably, like Bali or somewhere like, maybe somewhere like Bali. Love to go again. And then I'm not as taken by Europe anymore because I live there. Like, I've been to Europe so many times now that it's enjoyable. I go, I don't want to go to Europe again. So it's more warmer, relaxing places than, say, European. I really struggle with giving up an Australian summer to do a European winter. So this is going to be warm. I'm not going to give up my Australian summer to do it.
Mm-hmm. I get you. All right. So, Tim, where can we find your music? I know that you're with Big Records, so we can find you on bigrecords.world.
Yep. We can find me on Spotify and on YouTube. Tim Lane Music. We'll get you to both of those. I've got a website, will get you to all of those places, which I'll probably need to update a bit now. They're the main places. occasionally I'll do something on TikTok, but not very often, just do a live when I'm playing live, but they're a bit random, so you wouldn't find it. But yeah, mainly Spotify, YouTube, my website, Big Records, are the main ones. I'm on, well, no, I'm not really on there either yet, but there's a thing called AmRap in Australia, which sort of does some independent artists, but I haven't got myself up there yet.
Nice.
Sorry, and Instagram's the other thing you'll see when I'm doing gigs. I put the occasional song, and if a new song gets released, it goes Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. But we can find your specific links when we go to bigrecords.world, Tim Lane, right? Because we got all your links up there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And in closing, is there anything you'd like to share with us that I haven't covered in your interview yet?
No, I've just really enjoyed learning more about music with Big Records. I really enjoyed, just the Big Records journey that I've had so far. It's sort of opened my eyes to what's possible and a wider audience and new people. And it's not easy being a 59-year-old singer-songwriter. And it's just allowed me to get more progress with what I'm doing. So I just really wanted to say thank you for everyone who's helped me, because it was been great.
Well, we really thank you for bringing your music and your beautiful lyrics and your beautiful songs to us at Big Records World. We're certainly glad that you're with us, and it's a pleasure and a joy to work with you, Tim. So thank you very much for taking the time to be on this interview with me. And
cool. We'll keep talking.
All right. So we do have a tagline. Are you ready for it?
Yep.
Okay. So it's I see, you see, we see, grazie.
I see, you see, we see, grazie.
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 Yes, there you go. Good job. So thank you very much. You want to try it again on 3? 1, 2, 3. I see, we see, you see, grazie.
Grazie.
Good job. So thank you very much to everybody, all of our listeners that are listening in on this podcast. And thank you to Tim Lane from Tasmania for joining us. And we hope that you'll tune into his music at bigrecords.world. And you can look for him. He is Tim Lane. Thank you so much, Tim, for spending the time with us and telling us all about your music. And, the one thing about being a singer-songwriter is the songs, they come in your head and you got to get rid of them. They've got to go somewhere. So we're certainly very blessed to have the opportunity to listen to your music. So thank you very much for joining us, Tim.
Thank you very much. Good one.
And thank you also to Fear Escape for producing this show, because, of course, without Fear Escape behind these scenes here, these shows wouldn't happen. So thank you so much, Fear Escape.
Thank you, Fear Escape. Okay.